that, I would like to talk a little bit about Helsinki Creators, the community, what we do and what is our value. This was created because of like a personal pain that I run a video production company, and sometimes I hire like a copywriter or artist for different genre. So it was really difficult for me to find people, but I know that there is a lot of people out there who can help me. So then me and Lydia, we met and we thought maybe we can create something like a community where we can actually bring these people together and we can work together. One is create. We want that as a creative people, we want that when you come together, we create something together. Maybe we have here someone designer, someone photographer, someone entrepreneur. So someone need maybe some, for example, entrepreneur, he needs like a for her or his portfolio, like a photographer. So from this community, you can actually find that person when you like have this kind of networking event. You can look for it. And another thing is that we want to connect people together. Through this networking event, we go through this this is how we think that we highly encourage you that you talk to other people and then listen to other people's like need and pain, that what you need, what you do, and how we can help, or like maybe create project together. We are still in some kind of MVP situation right now. This is our 5th event and it is like growing and growing. So we are also working on defining this value. So we want that maybe from this community in future there will be project happening. People will have like their own project for portfolio, for internship, and lastly that we inspire together. So as creative people, sometimes we get stuck, we don't have people to talk maybe. So then in this kind of networking event, we have that like place where we can share our pain or learning or whatever is going on in life. So we can find out even friend from here. Lydia.
Just a few words from my side about our future activities. What we want to do, Tarek already explained. We want to bring people together. So spring, summer is coming. We will be having networking activities, maybe picnic style activities. We will be inviting more interesting guest speakers for you to come. There will be a lot happening. And there will be slides at the end where you can find information about us if you don't follow us on Instagram or LinkedIn or a newsletter. Now, I would also like to invite Salla. She works for Hive, and actually they are hosting us today. We are very thankful. Salla.
Hi, how are you doing? Okay, I'm not satisfied with that answer. How are you doing? Oh, nice, so much better. Warm welcome to Hive Helsinki. We're super happy to host you and have you here, and we're very excited to offer you the space for this very important event. A few words about Hive. I'm now looking at all of you people here because all our students are here. So, hello, welcome to our coding school. So briefly, Hive Helsinki is a free coding school especially for people without any previous coding background. We have a campus that is open 24/7, and after this event I invite you to take a tour and look around. Briefly about the space, we have some gender neutral bathrooms over here in the hallway. They're marked with an asterisk, men's in the corridor where you left your jackets, and then female all the way back there. Indeed, we are a free school, no previous coding experience required. Our studies last from 1 year to 2 years, and the employment rate of our graduates is 100% at the moment. So, if you're maybe interested in a coding school that doesn't have any teachers, any lectures or classes, all the learning happens within the community. We don't teach anything, we just give projects, the space, and the students form a great community and solve problems together. So if that's maybe your thing, or you know somebody who might be interested, check out our website and come and talk to me after the event. But without further ado, big thanks for being here and warm welcome to Hive once more. Cheers!
Yay. So much energy sharing what happens next. Now we will have two amazing speakers coming here. First, there will be Svetlana Sherifulina.
Hello everyone, so happy to see so many people today. Even though the topic is mental health and it's a bit difficult topic to talk about before the weekend, in the evening. So I will tell briefly before I start my presentation about myself, so why you should listen what I'm going to tell to you. I have PhD in neuroscience. I am more than 20 years already in brain research, investigating molecular and epigenetic mechanism of brain regeneration after trauma and stroke. And also I'm mental health advocate. So today I would like to tell you a bit of neuroscience and mental health, so you would know the processes that actually going on in our brain in different situations. But first of all, I would like to mention that everything is just for educational purpose only. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a doctor, there is no any to do now recommendations. So just if you struggle because of some problems, or you know someone, your friend, your colleague who is struggling, please go to and get professional help and take this workshop as an educational thing. So, as a scientist, I decided to start with the number. I don't know if it's scary or not, but for me it's promising, because this is the number of the research on mental health from 2022 till now. Well, till yesterday. Now I think it's already much more published. And as you see, actually it's almost 80,000 new research that published on how people trying to prevent mental health issue, how they try to treat them. So we still has so many research to do to get the answers. So let's start just with a definition. I know we all have the idea what mental health is, but it's nice to talk about the term, just to know that we are talking about the same thing. So mental health is the state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with the stresses of life, realize their abilities, learn well and work well, and contribute to their community. So here is just some examples of the mental health disorders like depression, addiction, eating disorders, bipolar disorders, schizophrenia, and I think that you heard this, but also some of them, like for instance anxiety disorders, they also have subtopics like panic disorders, obsessive compulsive disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety and phobias. So now we also have mental health issue related to COVID. So latest research shows so it's due to the inflammation in the brain, and then we also have new term COVID-related psychosis that cause mental distress, but also there are so many harmful reporting to make this drama about this COVID, and actually many data is not well researched, so please take carefully all the information that you get, just not to make this stress because of the news. So why we are talking even the simple things, the terms, the definitions, because still there is a lot of stigma in the society, and especially in professions that related to the creativity. And people really discriminate at their workplace by their friends, colleagues, and their universities, if they have some kind of even anxiety, and people trying to hide and not to talk freely about what's happening, meaning that they very often can't get even enough help just because of this stigma. So this seminar, one of the aim of this seminar also just to try to put awareness of the mental health issue in our society. So now I will go more about brain and neuroscience. So here on the screen you see this fMRI scans of the brain with the activated zones that in neuroscience it's called default mode network. So it activates when you basically do nothing. Just when you're in the bus, in the metro, you're not doing any task. Maybe you can recall this state just somewhere, you're just somewhere. And this is default mode network. once I give you, for instance, the task, multiply some numbers, draw me a picture, that goes like the deactivates. And it's been shown that the deficit of default mode network involved in so many mental health disorders. For instance, when people have ADHD, so the control from one part of the brain to another, it just interrupted. And people just can't control all the input information that come from the sensory lobe. And so the frontal lobe that is like located like, well, here, so it just can't control enough. So we have this disorder. In autism, for instance, so there is an interruption between main parts of this network, so the people going into self. And it's very difficult for them to communicate with the outside world. And lately, more research been shown that this network highly involved in depression. So, as you know, maybe depression one of the leading cause disability worldwide, and suicide in the first leading causes of death among young people. So, there are few hypotheses on the depression. For many years, it was this one hypothesis, this monoamine hypothesis, something with the serotonin. People don't know even that most of our serotonin, not in the brain, but in our gut, produced by our bacteria. But it was like the dominated in the neuroscience. But recently more hypotheses appeared in research. One of them is neuroplasticity. So depression could be caused by epigenetic mechanism changes. So that means that some of your genes by epigenetic changes switched off and switched on. And that actually could lead to many variety of the disorders. Also stress or some inflammation could be the cause of the depression, and people nowadays trying to look at the new ways of the treatment of the depression through these mechanisms. Another hypothesis is so-called glutamate hypothesis. It's been shown that this molecule involved in neurogenesis, when you have new cells appear in your brain. And during the depression, actually that stops. So it stops due to the lack of the glutamate. And actually some of the antidepressants recently been shown that their side effect was growing new cell bodies of the neurons. So maybe it's not serotonin itself mechanism, but here appearance of new cells could explain that antidepressants work in some cases. Also, some functional distress like traumatic brain injury could lead to depression, and medical conditions if the person has the problem with the thyroid, vitamin D. Here in Finland, I don't know if you heard this, but this is the fact. Now doctors, just general therapists, do not check your vitamin D because everyone has low level. So it makes no sense to go and make this just average checkup. I do not talk about like some conditions specific. So it's also good to keep in mind that everyone here in Finland, due to the lack of sun, has already lack of vitamin D. And this is actually could be already cause of some distress that could lead maybe, hopefully not. Okay, so now I would like you to look a bit at this picture. And this is actually how stroke looks like. So our brain trying to identify the objects, and we see some familiar parts, but basically nothing. So this is how people see the reality when there is a stroke. You may ask me, like, why I'm talking about stroke now, when we're talking about like mood disorders, mental health disorders. But the thing is that 1 in 6 stroke patients have had pre-stroke depression. That means that people can be in the depression mode for years, and that will lead us to stroke and actually to death. Actually, people also who suffer from depression, they die early, average 20 years earlier than people who do not suffer. And I'm not talking about like, suicide or something like that. It's due to stroke or other preventable diseases. So it's really important to think about this now while we are young, so we can do something with our mental health and maybe help our family and friends to prevent severe diseases This is another example how everything correlated with each other in our body. So this is the scan of the brains, and let's see the pointer. No, it's okay, I will show like this. So here's where our amygdala is. Here's the patient, and you see that the amygdala is like the part where the amygdala is highly activated. It's called Takotsubo syndrome. I don't know if you heard. Does anyone know what does it mean? Well, you definitely know this syndrome because it's called broken heart syndrome, actually. And that leads to the extremely hard heart failure. Well, it's about 80% of the patients is women. It could be because of the divorce, because of the broken relationship. So just this stressful situation could lead the changes in the brain, the stress in the amygdala, and then to heart failure. It's also good to know these things, so then everyone, I think, should kind of start to be familiar with the techniques to reduce the stress in any situation, just to avoid these changes in our brain as well. So some mental health statistics. Well, I do understand that this is not very happy numbers, but I think it's important to know them. And to improve a mood a bit after this talk, we have nice pulla there, so. Yeah, so a bit statistics. People often suffer more than one mental disorders at once. So it's good to know that if someone has anxiety, maybe that's not only the one mental disorder that person could suffer. Women are twice likely to suffer from major depression than men. Men and women equally likely to develop bipolar disorder. Major depression can be developed at any age, but usually it's mid-20s. So 18% of people have an anxiety disorders. It's just latest statistics, and I think that at least some of us already here could be in these numbers. So it's good to think about mental health promotion and protection. And as I said, I'm not going to give you any advices. I'm not a therapist. Yes, we all know food, exercises, sleep, and also social networks, what we are doing now. But some things that was being published last year in Frontiers of Psychiatry, I would like to bring up today. So cognitive behavioral therapy. The book or therapist, please do be familiar. It may help you to prevent even the early stage of the disorder while you wait 2 months to go to the Terves Asthma here by Kela. Behavioral interventions, coping skills training, you can find actually tools or also ask your general practitioners at hospital. General health education, also training for psychological resilience, promotion of healthy lifestyle, gut microbiota interventions, and psychosocial interventions. I'm not going now, we don't have enough time. It could be every topic, like separate workshop on it. If you're interested in something, we can talk after the lectures during the network. You can reach me out later, so please ask if you're interested in something of this to know more. And also I would like to tell about mental health in our digital age. So now we have plenty of apps, different chatbots, web services, you name it. And as a neuroscientist, I should tell you that 90% of them are not scientifically proven. It's bullshit, it's not working. So please check what you are using, because research also showed that, for instance, people with mild depression, if they go for some breathing techniques, they could get to very fast jump to severe depression that even not all the antidepressant may help. So this is actually serious. All this like meditation, breathing, mindfulness techniques, they do work at some cases and they could harm and others. So please be smart. And also I would like to tell you about this project that I'm involved together with other neuroscientists from Helsinki and US and from Michigan University. So we are building now AI-based platform that search through the latest scientifically proven literature and then build personalized recommendations to prevent some mental health issues. So if you interested, you can ask me and also become our beta tester in future, because now with the software developers and AI specialists and also core of scientific advisors, we are doing this platform because we really would like to improve the situation with the well-being and mental health in our society. This is some books that I highly recommend you to read. Well, we already talked about cognitive behavioral therapy. Also, very nice book, We Are Our Brains. It's like fairy tale before going to bed. Interesting facts, very easy to read, sometimes with a sense of humor. So I highly recommend it. And then the book Neuroscience. Well, it's also good for sleep. So you can fall asleep very quickly. But actually there are a lot of mechanisms that are going on in our brain described. I think it's in very good way. So if you're interested, please go ahead. And here is not the book, it's the service, Miepi. I don't know if you're familiar, here in Helsinki. It's for free. You can have 5 free sessions with a licensed therapist if you want just to talk about something or you really need some serious help. They actually even promote someone to get appointment with the doctor faster and prescription and everything. So please use also their website. They have a lot of information in different languages. If you have some trouble with the sleeping or addictions or something like that, so please do. So basically that's it. QR code for my LinkedIn. Please feel free to reach me out, and it was my pleasure to talk today to you, and see you later during the network. Thank you.
Thank you, Svetlana. Now we have another Svetlana, Svetlana Makhmutova. She's an engineer. She will tell you a little bit more about herself now.
Svetlana Marmutova, I have PhD, but in electrical engineering. So basically the motivation is, ever since I finished the academia, I moved to industry, and I realized that I struggle to communicate with people, to achieve my goals, to make myself clear to my coworkers. So I started asking myself, okay, what do I do wrong? How can I improve my interactions and achieve my goals in the big group of stakeholders? So, and as a scientist, if you want to learn something, you learn how things work, right? So dig into your brain. So I started learning like the scientific papers and books on how the brain works, how to interact with people. So that's the background and motivation. The agenda and the sources for today, the source on the left-hand side. So the scientific papers, scientific books, then the workshops with the popular science and with the business coaches, pretty much where we go through those interactions and we learn together like how to make them work. So, and then the last one is the experience. So once you learn how things work, then you start apply them. So I apply them in my life, in my engineering work, and then in business consulting work. It works, so that's what makes me comfortable now to share with you, share my experience, and I hope it's going to be useful. And I hope for questions afterwards. So there will be today 3 big parts. First, we're going to go through the brain. What are the important parts in our brain responsible for behavior, interactions? Then we're going to define what is excitation, emotion, and our reaction to make it clear. And then we're going to go to the algorithm. As a scientist and engineers, we like algorithms. So how to decouple, how to behave. And that's going to be the deliverable for today, the algorithm, how to behave when we need to make interactions and work with people. Right, so quickly, Svetlana was talking today already about amygdala and frontal cortex. So first thing, what we need to know about the brain is the most energy consuming organ in the body. So in order to make it optimum and less energy consuming, the brain operates in patterns. So event A, here's your reaction. Event B, here's your reaction quickly. You don't need to spend energy to save the energy. So this is the default mode of the brain. We need to be aware of that. So sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's not. So that's like the situation. So limbic system, you see this is the amygdala, this is the most ancient part of the brain. It receives the signals from the outside world, when we talk to people, when we hear something, we smell something, we touch something, we feel something in our bodies, everything goes first to limbic system. This is the oldest part. it's pretty much responsible for it's like a semi-automatic replies, right? You feel the fire, you take your hand off the fire, it's hot. Or you see the lion, you run. Or your blood start pumping up because you know soon you will be running because you see the lion. So this is the pretty much default system. It's very quick, it almost doesn't take any energy, it's always working, whatever happening in your life, in your body. So then, frontal cortex, this is the the picture. So this is the fun picture from one of the research where they show the parts of the brain of different primates, and you see that we can see some similar parts in, let's say, mouse, cat, chimpanzee, and human. So the limbic part is every single primates have limbic parts. This is what unites us. Then what is different is the frontal cortex. Human beings, we have the frontal cortex, which is the most young part of the brain. This is our Captain Spock, the one which say, okay, hold on, let's think about it. What's going on? Like it receives the information from the limbic system. Something is going on, I'm afraid. And the frontal cortex like, okay, why are you afraid? What is going on? Who is this lion? Like this lion, do we need to really be afraid of this lion or not? So the frontal cortex is our thinking part. And as you can understand, it takes a lot of energy, a lot of time. You know, it creates the scenarios, the strategies, what to do. So one small thing here, like whenever in the body, in the brain, once we don't have resources, the limbic system is always on. So when we don't have oxygen, or we don't have nutrition, or we don't have there's another lecture on that. So like the frontal cortex is the first one to switch off. So that's what we need to remember. That's it. That's about the brain. Now, some quick examples, and on these examples we will try to already to see some patterns in the algorithms. So imagine the first line what we look at. First we have excitation, whatever, from the outside world, from our own body, whatever is happening, what agitates us, something happened. So first it goes to limbic system, LC, then it turns into emotion, fear, aggression, happiness, excitation, whatever. So all these emotions are in the limbic system. Then we need to engage with the frontal cortex, VC, frontal cortex, and then you change it, your emotions, you change it to your response. Okay, what should I do about this emotion? So, for example, there was a few months ago in LinkedIn, there was a big topic on that as a boss, you should not send the empty invites to the meetings when there's no agenda, there's no description, you just invite a bunch of people. And the conclusion was that you need to put agenda, you need to say who will be in this meeting, why, what is the role, and so on and so on. But this is all true, of course. But I need to ask myself, okay, when I receive this empty invitation, why do I feel fear and anxiety? Why? This is the emotion, right? It goes for a few seconds. So then I use my frontal cortex and I say, well, all I know is my boss invited me to the event, right? So that's all I know. So why should I shouldn't think further like that it will be some, he will fire me, he or she will fire me, whatever. So this is the algorithm. They say, imagine if your partner invited you to a luxury restaurant. And you can say, no, Svetlana, don't take it from us. This is one light of happiness. But even happy events, we can also construct them further, create empty illusions, and then once it's like it doesn't happen the way we imagined, and then we have the disappointments, and this is like what we also want to avoid. So partner invited me, awesome, great, I'm excited, happy event, but that's it, no more setups afterwards, so stay calm. So again, if a professor or supervisor, if they shout it and say like, hey, you will never become an engineer, you are useless. Okay, what is my emotion? I have a creativity crisis, I have anxiety that I will never be an engineer, right? But what I should do is, okay, he's a professor, he's my supervisor, he has a right for his opinion, all right, good. What can I do? I can ask him, why do you think exactly I'm not going to become an engineer? What can you advise me? Where should I look more? Maybe I'm missing in math, or I'm missing in methodology, whatever. So this is what I mean with the frontal cortex. It's your Captain Spock, which says, hold on, let's look at it. So these were the examples. Work part. We need to come up with the algorithm. What do we do? Again, you see 3 parts here. First of all, emotions are here. We love them. Without emotions, life is, colorblind. So we want to experience emotions and feelings. It must be here. So respect emotions. They will burn out. Depending on the person, it may be minutes, it may be seconds. They will go away, emotions, unless you feed them. So that's what I was, by the way, doing when I was 18. I had a broken heart and I was feeding myself, oh, he broke up with me, and then like for days. So if you don't feed them up, emotions burn out. So burnout in a good way. And also respect people around you. Like they also have their lives and feelings. Think of the way you express your emotions within these few minutes, so you don't destroy your relationship with the people just because of these few seconds of emotional response. So second, once you feel calm, emotion is gone, look objectively on the situation. So what exactly happened? Like even you can, usually I imagine myself like there is a theater and I'm on the stage and I'm watching myself from the audience, like at the situation, as objectively as possible. So what exactly was said? What kind of words were used? Exactly. So then the person who was telling me this, the professor, maybe the professor is emotional himself, and this is his way to interact with people. So maybe it was not because of me, and he was not personally talking about my engineering challenges, but that's just how he wants to engage with people. So that's a different color in this metrics. Then again, what were the circumstances? Maybe when the boss was too shouty, maybe there's a deadline close by, and maybe the team is late with the deliverables, or like this is the situation. So there's always some circumstances we need to take into account once we analyze the situation. And the final part, once you made this analysis, we need to create a response. Here, and I cannot emphasize more on this sentence, whenever I worked with the business coaches, that was the first sentence she was asking me. What do you want to achieve? So I was there like, oh, this happened. I said, okay, calm down. What do you want to achieve? Do you want to progress with your career? Do you want to keep a relationship with your colleagues? Maybe do you want to quit and just shut the door? And that's also an option. So tell me, what do you want to achieve? So there was a discussion recently in Instagram with Lydia, right, with the business partner. So if some of your values don't align, but you still need to do the business, right? And then the question is like, do I show now that our values are not aligned? Do I do the business and do it afterwards? So again, the question is, what do I want to achieve? And then like, if I compromise for my values, is it really much more important than if I do the business? So, and that's the first step in creating the response strategy. So then what I want to achieve, then what are the options? What can I do? Or like literally, should I reply? Should I just keep it like, okay, it's not my business, it's the professor problems with his emotions and stuff. So what are the options? And then the time and the place as well when you implement the strategy. There was recently a good example from Simon Sinek on, he said that he was invited by his friend to a theater play, and during the play he didn't like it at all. So it was at all like really bad. But he said, if I criticize his play right after the play, then it will be hurtful because the person, he was so excited, it's his first play, he invited all his friends. So maybe that's not the right place and the time to say it. So you can still keep it true. So what he was saying, like, okay, I'm really happy that you invited me. I'm glad I was with you at this event. So that was all true, right? And then the next day, when the emotions are gone and the person is calm, he's in normal mood, then Simon approached him and said, well, actually, this was maybe not exactly what I expected, or whatever criticism he wanted to show to his friend. So you can still be true, you can still achieve your goals, you can still respect your colleagues, your customers or stakeholders in your organization, but do it in the right way. So, and one last thing to remember, like whenever we do this kind of analysis, self-reflection. So, and there are two levels. First, self-reflection is your own. Whenever I have an emotion, somebody criticizes me, I have a strong emotion of how dare you. So first thing to do is ask myself, Svetlana, why do you react like this? Do you feel like maybe back in school your teachers were telling you like you are the number one and you are the smartest, and then somebody else is there to, to challenge me or something, so, or whatever. So what is my own setup? What are my motivations that I react like this? This is the easiest one because, you can talk to yourself. This is the, the most easier way. But the second, the difficult layer is to understand the motivations of other people. And this is also need to be taken into account when you talk to other people to know what are their motivations, what is their setups, why do they behave like this. And the interesting part now these days, whenever I meet new people or even my old friends, I know that there are people who are, and this is really exciting for me, whenever I talk to somebody and they ask me, okay, Svetlana, but why do you think that way? Or they ask me, why did you feel that way? Or why did you ask me this question? So this person trying to understand what is my setup, let's say, what is my decision-making matrix, if you will. So once you know other people, once you know what are their setups, you can turn your emotional intelligence into emotional capital. Because you can create relationship, you can achieve your goals, you can build the teams, you can start businesses, you can be successful with your co-founders, with whatever. So whatever you want to achieve, this is emotional capital. So how to turn your emotional intelligence into capital. It's all about money, right? No, that's a joke. So that's the algorithm, right? First, emotion is here, awesome, great, respected. Then analyze what's happening. Last step is create response. And I'm telling you, at the beginning, it takes much longer time. It's really long. But once you practice it, it becomes much faster and almost immediately. So at least this is my experience. And internal ego. Oh. So the sources for today, what I also recommend you to read. Behave on the left-hand side. This is 700 pages of scientific text of small letters, but this is the best book ever because Sapolsky, he's super humor. He has a really good sense of humor, and whatever he explains the science, he explains in understandable way and in a fun way. Absolutely my always to read book. Then popular science, just choose the one which you trust. There are scientists like Svetlana, they are scientists and they know how to explain things. And like these days, we don't have 8 hours to do some side hustle, right? So we have little time, but we still want to learn. So popular science, 7 habits of effective people. The title is a bit a pop, if you will, but it's super cool. It also tells you about similar stories, right? How to interact with people, how to set your values, but more in, let's say, the business way, in a social way. So it's very easy to read. Really, the book will change my life as well. Then games that people play. This is a rather old book, so be careful when you read it. It was written in the 50s. Some of the things will be a little bit controversial now, but the whole idea is interesting. So the person talks exactly about these reactions, but from the ego perspective. He says that we can have 3 main ego patterns: adult, child, and parent. So whenever you talk to somebody as a child, I don't care, I want this. Adult, okay, let's be objective, let's see what's happening. Parent, I always told you to do it that way, you are, whatever. So it's a bit simple, but it's still interesting to see. And here, for you guys, as you are creators, A Revolver is the movie by Guy Ritchie. The most, just today, if you have time in the evening, go and watch it. It's absolutely the best movie. It also talks about the setup. So the main hero, he questions himself, like, why do I want to revenge? What is my, okay, no spoilers, but it's super cool movie. And it's also made in such a, artistically pleasant way that I love to watch it. It's just, enjoyable to watch. So Guy Ritchie is number 1. And Revolver is one of the best movies. So that's it for today. Thank you very much.